Hello, 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 everybody. Welcome back to the Pipeline Podcast. I'm your host today, Darren McClymans, and today I'm joined by not Darren McClymans. It's Canada Graphs. Hello,
True.
Canada Graphs.
Yes, I thought I needed to put that there because you never know who's watching. They might be confused.
Yeah, it could be your enemies. It could be all the people that you've pissed off over the...
Oh, there's almost certainly always an enemy watching.
Yeah, absolutely. Maybe it's Stephen Amell being like, I don't like that guy. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, let's be honest. Mark Guggenheim's probably watching.
Yeah, I mean, the channel's been growing a lot, so obviously he's tuning in every week to make sure that one time that you're going to be there. No, man, it's so great to have you on the show. We talked a little bit prior to jumping on here. We're in a lot of the same inner circles, Eric's channel, Lance's channel, Chainsaw's channel, a lot of that kind of fun stuff. I was like, you're one of the big kind of pieces of the DC TV kind of content creator group that I haven't had on the show yet. So I was like, you know what? All these shows have now ended. Let's have them on. Let's have a conversation. How are you doing?
Wait, they're over?
Yeah, I mean, we don't know about Arrow season 17 yet.
I have been waiting so long for these things to come back.
You would have been waiting a long time.
Oh.
I mean, Naomi season 2 could still happen. We don't know. That's still...
I mean, who's to say? I mean, I heard that there's still a Gotham Knights Naomi crossover to come.
I would unfortunately watch that. I would unfortunately be seeing...
I'm sorry for you.
But yeah, no, I mean, obviously today we're going to be talking about final seasons of DC TV. I think over these next couple months, I'm going to try and do a lot of these, now that's all over, kind of reflecting on the universe as a whole. Obviously, you've played a big role, I guess, in, or at least a big part in the community of these shows as they've come out.
Right, yeah.
I mean, what was that experience like? Because just from an outside perspective, your name has been tied to these shows as long as I've been a fan of them, on the good side and the bad side, being like, oh my gosh, we got new photos, and also, oh my gosh, we got new photos. I can't believe it. I want to see that. All that fun stuff. You've been such a name in this this kind of universe. I mean, what is that like, kind of looking back on it now that it's all kind of over?
It's a little bit of everything. Some of it was fun. Some of it is totally exhausting. Some of it I'm disappointed it's over. Some of it I'm thankful is over. Like a lot of people, have to realize, for me, it's mostly a job. I do love these shows, but I love these shows through having to cover them. If they were just things on TV, I probably would have watched Arrow, and that's probably about the extent of the ones I would have watched.
Sure.
Sure.
No, I think these shows for me, and that had changed definitely as they were airing, because I used to be obsessed with them as a kid, and I still was, but I still am. But I think this is one of those franchises where it's about the journey is better than the destination. I loved having those conversations about it and theorizing and talking about it a lot more than the actual shows themselves at times, which I think is a very interesting thing that has kind of happened. Because there was definitely this formula to the show in the actual shows themselves and just how they aired, just being like, okay, you get 4 to 5 shows every year. They'll probably have a Christmas episode and a crossover, and they'll have 22 episodes and blah, blah, blah. There's a formula to that I think was very comforting. I think very similar to how people watch football, where it's just football's on every year. I expect it, and I'll watch it no matter what.
Right, yeah.
So definitely kind of in that line.
Yeah, there was always that moment too where you get into April and you're like, what am I going to do after next month?
Right. Yeah, because again, we were crazy. I've said it for years. Arrowverse fans were some of the most dedicated fans on the planet.
Oh yeah.
Current MCU fans complain, oh, it's so much content. It was well, we were watching 5 to 6 shows every year, all with 20 episodes a season. And then we would do that, it'd be okay, 3 months off. And then we would do it again for 6-7 years.
And I mean, if you were a content creator, you don't really get those months off because some asshole in Vancouver's taking set photos and you're like, I got to report on this now.
This son of a bitch. It's
So
crazy.
it's 12 months a year for them, you know?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Lance is in the chat. Hello, Lance. Is this the famous Mexico graphs? I don't know. Maybe like a
Si,
spinoff.
senor.
Yeah, maybe we can get like a spinoff series over there.
Yeah, I mean that they're doing The Boys Mexico, so like we can have like maybe I'll go there and cover that.
Absolutely. Strangers in the chat. Hello, Stranger. Stranger says, I missed the Arrowverse. I also missed the Arrowverse. To an extent. Like, I don't know. Like, I think some of the shows I was getting to a point where it's like, okay, this is, I don't love them as much as I used to, but I definitely miss, like you were saying, having Arrowverse shows to watch and talk about every week. Like, that will never not go away for me. Would you ever rewatch them, do you think?
I probably will. Like, so here's the thing. One of the things one of the reasons I found out about, some of the people that discuss stuff on YouTube,
right,
about the content I would put out was, I originally started by watching reaction channels to shows. So there's still people making new content of Arrow and The Flash, maybe some of the other shows, but I haven't really noticed them. So like I'm still technically rewatching through watching them, Arrow and The Flash right now,
Absolutely.
So yeah, I mean, I'm not at the point where I have to sit down and like rewatch them, but I am technically sort of rewatching them,
Sure.
I do have to do a rewatch of The Flash and Superman and Lois eventually, so that I can scene match some of the stuff I've got from the wardrobe sales and stuff.
Right.
But I just did a rewatch of Superman and Lois leading up to the finale for that same reason. So I'm not really looking forward to doing 50 episodes again so soon, let alone 200 episodes, Oh,
God. Yeah. No, that's definitely a lot. I mean, how did you get started in this space? Because it's like, like growing up, I would have never imagined like just the idea of like, oh, I'm gonna take photos of TV shows that are just swimming on the street. Like how did you get into that like entire industry?
There is a few steps along that way. So it's not like I just decided one day, hey, I saw a film set, let's go take some photos.
Right.
It sounds ridiculous, but technically you have to go back to when I was like a child, like 6, 7 years old. My mom used to take me to hockey games, and she would take me down underneath underneath of the arena. You could go hang out around the locker room and meet the players when they left, before the era of like big security stadiums. So my introduction into celebrity stuff started with me meeting hockey players.
Oh wow.
Now it stayed as a sports thing well into like my 20s. And then randomly, it was the X-Files was the first thing that was in Vancouver that I started covering from a celebrity standpoint. And that was still just autographs at that time. I wasn't doing set photos. But I would interact occasionally with people that were, paparazzi types. And I would see what they were doing. So where I would, once in a while, I would like, those, you're a younger generation, you might not remember them, but you remember the cameras that you had to like roll the film to take the next picture?
Yes.
It didn't have any batteries or anything. It was just a camera that like worked like that.
Right.
I used to take those with me and take the occasional photo here and there. But they were nothing like of the set. This would be like, so-and-so walking back from the set and be like, oh, hey, can I take a photo? And they'd be like, yeah, sure. And then when eBay started, I started putting those up on eBay as like just candid photos, and they sold really well.
Right.
And I was like, there's a market for this.
Right.
So where it kind of started to move to reporting on sets was slightly after the era of like those Twilight films. They did the 2nd, 3rd, 4th, and 5th films in Vancouver. And massive attention. That is where I got my start on Twitter from. Like, like now I've got like 14,000 followers, but before Twilight, I had like 17. And then that blew up, and then, everything compiled on top of that. So the first shows that really got me into like reporting on what was going on and taking set photos was like Supernatural, Fringe, Once Upon a Time. Like these were the first shows I really covered. And then when Arrow came along, I had, like Smallville was a thing, but it wasn't filming on location. Right. They had their own fancy studio, their own fancy little small city. So you didn't get to see them on location. But I knew there was a fan base for it.
Right.
So when Arrow came along, I picked that up, and the rest is history.
That's amazing. Yeah, no, absolutely. Like, do you have any favorite like memories with those shows as well? Just in terms of, because again, you broke a lot of scoops for a lot of people. I mean,
there's favorite memories so some of my favorite memories aren't even like the big shocking ones that everyone like knows about. They're the like random, I didn't know I had taken a photo of something until I got home and could see it on my computer. Because like when I'm on the set, I'm looking at it through the lens of my camera, which is like this big, right?
Right.
Like on the back of my camera, I'm looking at it, I'm like, is that somebody? Or is that just like a guy holding up a sign? Like, I don't know what's going on. And then I'd get home and be like, oh, hey, that's Hartley Sawyer in a new outfit or something like that, right? But I don't know that when I'm on the set because I'm standing sometimes several hundred feet away. Mm-hmm. And I don't know what I'm necessarily shooting all the time. Like, I can pick out a red suit in a crowd. Sure, I can pick out the Flash. But can you pick out Danielle Panabaker in street clothes in a crowd of 30 people from 600 feet away? Probably not.
Right.
Unless you know exactly where they are and all that. So, like, my favorite things would be when I get home, look at photos, I'm like, oh my God, who's this new person I shot? Those would be some of the cool ones. But like the ones most people think of course, is like when I, broke the scoop of Lucifer, a lot of the Crisis photos.
Yeah.
Anything that like big scoop related stuff, those are the ones most people associate with me. Like, I think the most traction I've ever got for anything had to be the Lucifer one. Mm-hmm. But I've probably had 30 or 40, like on my old, like my website's still active, but I barely use it now. On the website, there's 30 or 40 like blogs I did that have way better traffic than the Lucifer one ever did.
Oh, wow.
Just the timing and all that stuff, it depends, like what's happening at the time. Has there been a dry spell for scoops? That makes people more hungry to see something,
Right.
So yeah, there's probably like when we had the pandemic going on, mm-hmm. I did a top 50 list on my YouTube channel of like what I thought were the best scoops I've ever come up with. And that's all shows. Like, that's not just the Arrowverse. I can't even remember who was on the list now. It's been that long. But like, I'm pretty sure Lucifer probably was first. Did I print it out or do I have that? But yeah, there's been some that just obviously I'm just associated with, right? Like, if you look at something online and they're like, oh, this person, like one that just came to my attention today, I was on Blue Sky and I decided to look at my name on there and see if anyone said anything about me. And someone had posted about the photos from Supergirl when they did the wedding for the finale.
Yeah.
And I had the photos of Azzy Tesfaye in her wedding dress. And I'm like, did I take photos of that? And I had to go on my own blog to go look. I'm like, oh, I did. Yeah. Yeah, like things like that. Like, that was a fun one. Those weren't even my photos. That was a friend that was with me got those photos and gave them to me to use. That was a fun set though, even though essentially we got shut out. Like, I got a couple of set deck photos, but for the most part I got shut out. But it was fun, just the chess match of the sets over there, crew over there. How do we avoid them but still see something? That's half of what I do, is just playing chess in real life,
Right. Yeah, no, like that's definitely many crazy moments of like me going to school and being like, oh my gosh, they got photos of blah 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 blah. And I do remember the Lucifer moment of you being like, yeah, he's in the thing, and we're like, no way. And then like that like interview being like, nope, it was a wedding, it wasn't that. I was like, oh, maybe he was wrong, that sucks. And then that night, like when it premiered, I was like, holy shit, that son of a bitch got it. That's crazy. That's
I really wish I'd taken photos of that night, because I was trying to be respectful, because I was with 2 other people that night who were just fans, and I was trying to not blow their chance of meeting the actors. So I didn't pull out my camera for anything. I could have took shots of it, but I didn't, to try and help 2 other people, like, you know, have a chance of meeting
him,
who was on set. And in the end, a crew member decided they were going to be a superhero and like try and like blind me and them and their own crew. And I'm like, all right, well, if you want to be a jerk, I can be bigger jerk. Here, let me post this. No one would have known about it. If nothing had happened, if, you know, Tom and the others had come up and met us, you know, on the way out, I wouldn't have even posted about it. It would have just been like, hey, that'll go in my blog in a month, you know, down the line. But yeah, they kind of shot themselves in their own foot with that one.
That's crazy. Yeah, so we're gonna hop into today's episode. We have a couple of news stories we're gonna be going over. Our first of which, Lance has a question he really wants asked. Apparently, did you hug Javicia Leslie?
Sorry, Lance. No, I did not. She was super awesome though. Like, I don't have any problem with her. She was a class act across the board. I know she's got a new show, and I haven't watched it yet, but I'm happy that she's still like getting work, because she was awesome. You know, if I had to rank the leads of the shows, she, like, for like offset personality, she's probably first or second. Like, she would be, she'd probably be first, actually. You know.
Yeah, she really got the short end of the stick, I think, out of all those actors, because like she came in that season late, and then season 2 was still about Kate, so she had like 1 season to herself in a 3-season show. So yeah, no, that's gonna be really interesting. I hope she gets lots of work.
Yes, Lance, I told her that.
Yeah. Graphs Canada. But yeah, we're gonna be hopping into our first story here. So obviously the Arrowverse has ended. This era of DC has ended, but we are stepping into a new era of DC, which is the DCU. Before we hop into this first story, are you excited for that universe at all? Like, is that something, I know you're not probably reporting on it, stuff like that. Like,
mildly interested in some of the stuff.
Okay.
Like the Superman movie obviously has caught my attention.
Right.
But outside of that, the rest of it is kind of, you know, lukewarm to me so far. Like, I didn't watch Creature Commandos because I'm not really an animated person. And so it didn't catch my interest. And I don't even know what the next project is for DC right now. Is it Superman, or is there something before that?
Superman is next. Yeah, Superman is in July. So yeah, I mean, this news story kind of surrounds Superman, and that's for the upcoming Supergirl movie. Not mistaken.
Yeah.
The Arrowverse is Supergirl, because they also had a Supergirl. We got our first information for the upcoming Supergirl Woman of Tomorrow. Now, there's been a lot of like little not nitpicky, but little things have come out. They recently officially started filming. We had that first official look, the like behind the scenes look. Let's start there. I mean, in terms of like a Supergirl project, and obviously we had one in the Arrowverse, and we'll talk about that later. Are you excited for this movie? Like, are you excited to have someone else don that character?
Yeah, I mean, so like, as like just a casual viewer, I still like superhero stuff, but anytime like you try to bring in someone new that is like outside of my knowledge zone, I'm kind of a little slow to accept it. But like you said, we had a Supergirl now on the Arrowverse. On top of that, there was also a Supergirl movie back when I was a kid. So like, I'm familiar enough with the character that I will probably go see the movie, you know? Like when the Supergirl show came out,
Hmm.
I was excited for it till I watched it. Like, for a while, I was like, oh, this is cool. And then I saw it and I'm like, it's not for me,
Sure.
But
Sure.
they were aiming for a different demographic. I don't know if the movie will aim for that same demographic, but
Hmm.
you know, we'll see.
Yeah, yeah. I'm definitely very curious to see this take because I definitely think it'll be a very different take on Supergirl. The comic is a very, I don't want to say darker take on the character, but it's a little more, I guess, edgy, if you will,
Okay.
comparatively to the Supergirls that we've, like that we've seen in the last couple of years. Now, one of the big things that came out about this I thought was kind of interesting. They have officially confirmed that Supergirl will appear in the upcoming Superman movie, which was
Okay.
highly rumored. We're like, we basically know this is going to be a thing, but now it's officially confirmed. So we do know that. Where do you think, just someone who's very casual, what kind of role do you think she'll have in this kind of movie? Do you think it'll be like a post-credit
Pretty
scene?
minimal.
Yeah.
I would say 5 minutes or less.
Hmm.
Nearing the back end of the movie, like
Right.
the final act. Maybe he needs help with something, or maybe it's literally just a introduction. Like
Right.
he's like, oh, this is my cousin. Is it the Kara version again?
It is Kara. Yeah.
Okay. He might just like be saying this and like, oh, here's my cousin Kara, and that's
Right.
literally like it. She's not even in the Supergirl outfit. Maybe like
Right.
I'm sure she'll probably don the outfit just because they want people to be aware the character exists, not necessarily just her alias.
Yeah.
Um, so I think it'll be a pretty small piece of the movie though, like 1 to 5 minutes.
Yeah. I agree. Like I always imagined that just being the post-credit scene of the movie, just like a small little thing. Oh,
Yeah.
she's coming. We have a new project with her. I'm very curious if it'll be a prequel as well because I'm pretty sure it might be, especially with that movie most likely featuring Crypto as well. So I'm curious if she will already be on Earth operating when we get this movie, or if it will be her coming to Earth for the first time. Where is it going to fit into the overall timeline of this whole universe? I think will be very interesting to see. In
Mm-hmm.
terms of just this very small look here, like this is just a behind the scenes thing. We see the hair, can't see it over my graphic here, but there is the like crust of the suit here too. I mean, have you seen the like casting for it? Like, is this a casting that you're a fan of?
Um, so when it comes to casting stuff, I have always been of the impression of I will trust the
Right,
casting team and the
right,
directors more than I will fan casting, because fans are only ever going to go and like name the people that are at the top of their favorites list. Doesn't
yeah,
matter what the role is, right? Like you want someone that's like big buff person. They'll be like, here's the skinniest, smallest person I can think of, just because I have a crush on them. Like that's how fan casting always goes. And yeah, you'll get some that are good fan casts, but half the time, can they act the role? They might look the part, but can they also act the role? And that's a big part of casting. Is it's got to be more than just a look, right? So I will leave it to the casting team to make
yeah.
those decisions.
No, for sure, for sure.
Yeah.
I'm not good with fan castings at all. I get asked those a lot. But it's like, oh, who would you like for this character? It's like I probably someone I've never
Yeah.
heard of. It's probably like some newbie that you want to surround your character around the actor and stuff like that. Like I have no. Again, there will be a few where it's like, okay, yes, that's a really good fan casting. I know the like Blue Beetle that we recently had that came from fan casting, and like he's a perfect casting and stuff like that. So I definitely do agree with you to a certain point. And yeah, again, she was great in House of the Dragon. I bet she'll be great here. Very inspired. Let me just reference this comment really quickly. Music Lover talks about some of the characters that are going to be in this movie, or not this movie, but the Superman movie, such as Hawkgirl, Eve Tessmacher, Maxwell Lord are in it. Especially I think what's so cool about like the legacy of the Arrowverse and with this comment is like the Arrowverse introduced so many characters to the casual audience that
Yeah.
I don't know, like I probably would have met them otherwise, but like these were a lot of my first introductions to these characters. Like I didn't know Maxwell Lord, I didn't know
100. Yeah. Even like from the trailer, Mr. Terrific, I would have never known who Mr. Terrific was before the Arrowverse.
Right.
You know? So yeah, I think a lot of people probably will also be grading them compared to the Arrowverse versions, you know? I mean, Hawkgirl, I mean, the movie's going to win. I don't care if they put a potato in there, but the other ones, like, who played Eve Tessmacher? That was the blonde girl, right?
Yes. Yes.
Andrea Brooks. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah. Like, they will compare them to the Arrowverse. Oh, yeah. And it's unfair because they're going to get 3 minutes of screen time and they're versing 5 seasons, 6 seasons, 8 seasons of a character, you know? It's really unfair comparison.
Yep. It's like, you know, especially things like Arrow, where it's like, well, 8 seasons and 22 episodes of seasons for like almost 10 years. It's like, yeah, like the emotional attachment to a lot of these characters will simply never be beat. Like, especially when it comes to movies, like you're never going to match the screen time of like 800 some episodes of the Arrowverse. Like, you're just simply not.
I mean, literally, Superman, like David Corenswet, how many movies would he have to do to match the 4 seasons of Superman and Lois?
Yeah.
A lot. 50 episodes times 40 minutes. So like 2,000 minutes of screen time.
Yeah. And don't even attempt trying to beat with Tom Welling.
Yeah, but he wasn't Superman. He was dollar store. Still. He was dollar store Superman.
But yeah, no, I'm definitely very excited. So we have 2 MCU headlines I want to jump into. Are you a fan of the MCU at all? Are you into
more or less? Like, yes and no. Like, I am a fan of the casual audience stuff. Like, I'm familiar with 95% of the Avengers movies. I'm familiar with the Netflix series, you know, like that type of stuff. Sure. But if you were to ask me, like, hey, this character that had a movie that only grossed $12 million, I probably haven't heard of them. They put out a lot of things that don't catch anyone's eye.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
We had a TV series film here. I literally don't even remember the name of it. It was like 8 episodes. And you know, I don't even know, like, I'm sure it aired.
Was it Echo, perhaps?
No, it wasn't Echo. No. This is a few years ago, like 5 years ago.
Oh, okay.
God, now I'm curious, what was it? I know I've got a video of it, and I know it's low rated.
So over here says Hellstorm.
I think that might be it.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I think that funny. Might be it. Yeah.
I am 90% sure he was joking, so that's really funny. No, exit over here. I think it has to be that a Ghost Rider show that never got made, obviously.
Yeah, Hellstrom, I think, is the name of it. All I know is for so long, I am talking 6+ months.
Oh, wow.
I was the only promotion they had out there, was the one singular video I did of them. Like, they hadn't put out a trailer, they hadn't put out promo photos, they hadn't put out anything. I was the only thing out there for them, and still no one cared.
Aww.
Like, it's pretty low views, considering it was the only thing out there for like 6 months of them.
Yeah, that came out at like a weird time too, because like that was the in-between mark of the ABC, Freeform, Hulu stuff, and then the Disney Plus era of stuff. So they were kind of like, well, throw it out, just do what you want.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, in terms of the MCU, we have 2 kind of big things I want to talk about. First of which revolves Captain America: Brave New World, the next upcoming Captain America movie. Now this is big to me. This is a big piece of news, if true. Captain America: Brave New World seems to only have let me read his comment. Seems to only have a budget of $180 million. Now, this is a relief because I don't know if you saw this months and months and months ago. It was reported that they had this whopping budget of like 400 million because of all the reshoots, and people were freaking out. People were like, "Holy shit, they can't make that back in February. This is going to be a mess." I know you said you were only a casual fan. Are you planning on seeing this at all? Are you a fan of the
I watched Falcon and the Winter Soldier, so like I'm familiar with his version of Captain America. I definitely will be going to see this in the theater. But I think I've seen a trailer for it, but I'm not even sure I've seen a trailer for it.
Sure. This is a relief to me though, because I think this is very important to the MCU right now, because Sam is 99.9% likely to be the lead of Doomsday, right? Outside of the Robert Downey and Fantastic Four, stuff like that. Like, I think he'll be like the main lead of that movie. Hopefully the lead of the MCU for the next while. So I was definitely very concerned about it. Like, if this didn't do well with all the reshoots going around, with all these kind of fun things, I was very concerned that this maybe wouldn't do as well as it should have. But I think 180 to me, that to me seems like what Captain America should be in terms of a budget. You should not have a $300+ million budget for Captain America. Like, it simply should not.
Yeah, no, because granted, he's super powered, but he's not like flying around like in an Iron Man suit, and like there's not the technology needed for his character as much. But yeah, I mean, 180. If they don't make that back, then they're in trouble. But here's the one thing I was going to say. When you're talking about the reshoots, I see so many people all the time get very worked up about the word reshoots. It's not always a bad thing. It's not always a bad thing. There are a lot of things that happen in filming that like aren't technically reshoots. They get called reshoots. Like there's additional photography, which a lot of people just call reshoots, and they're not reshoots. There's things that were supposed to be filmed, but they couldn't get it done at that time. And so when someone says, "Oh, so-and-so had to do reshoots for this," I'm like, are you sure it's a reshoot? And it's not something that was already planned. And I think about 70% of the time when someone uses the term reshoots, they're talking about they went back and filmed stuff that was supposed to be planned, and didn't get done. Like we just literally this month had The Last of Us and Tron in town. Both of them were here for actual reshoots, whereas The Last of Us had come back already once before for additional photography. Now, if you were a casual fan, you're like, "Oh my God, they've done 2 sets of reshoots." No, they only did one for 4 days. The other time they were here was for additional photography. That was stuff they were scheduled to do but couldn't fit in for whatever reason,
Right.
So yeah, I'm not too panicked when I see the word reshoots. 7 out of 10 times, people are using the word wrong.
Yeah. Like I definitely think there's been a lot of like fear mongering around this project. There's been a lot of things and for multiple reasons. Like let's be honest, bringing in a new take on a very iconic character like Captain America was always a struggle. There's the people, "Oh, not my Captain America," and all the like anti-woke people that are like, "Oh, screw this movie," all that fun stuff. There were some real concerns with it. I'm not going to dismiss everything. Obviously, there's some concerns with it, but I do think a lot of it was born off of just hate off of the project by itself. And I think we're going to see, hopefully in a couple weeks, and again, maybe it's bad, maybe it's good, whatever, but I think that budget makes me a lot more confident in the success of a movie like that, especially if word of mouth is good. I think if this comes out and people are like, "Oh, this is one of the good ones," then people will go, just like they did with Deadpool, just like they did with Guardians 3. On the upside of that, though, if it's not good, right? If people are like, "Oh, this is one of the worst MCU movies," like not just people who want to hate on it, like general critics, then that might be like, "Oh, okay, maybe not. Maybe we're going to stay away from this one."
Yeah, I mean, if it does turn out to be underwhelming, that 180 price tag makes it easier for the studio to swallow.
Yes.
They look at that and they're like, okay, we still made a profit off it at least. Because, I mean, even an underwhelming Marvel movie's doing 300 million, you know?
It's
like,
still a Marvel movie, yeah.
Right. Like, it is really hard to imagine a scenario where they don't make money off it. Now, at 400 million, maybe they make money off it, but
Right.
it might take a longer grind, you know? But if it's 400 million and it turned out to be bad, that's a lot harder to justify, you know?
For sure. Okay, one other Marvel thing, and then there's some actual like breaking news that had just come out that we're going to talk about in a second here.
They finally cast me in.
What did they cast you in? What
I'm not allowed to say. I'm not allowed to say.
Oh, yeah. It's what's a super like controversial project I can pin you to? What's I don't know.
They're gonna. I'm not allowed to say the details.
Yeah.
But all I will say is I'm supposed to be playing a popular singer that just finished her world tour.
Okay.
They're doing a biopic, and I'm going to be the lead.
Gotcha. Well, good luck to you. Best luck to the fandom. So one of the big news stories this week that I found very interesting does revolve around Avengers Doomsday, which is the upcoming Avengers movie. Obviously, talk of the town in terms of the MCU, probably the biggest upcoming project. Benedict Cumberbatch won't
be in it. Yeah, I heard that
Avengers
too.
Doomsday, but teases a potential Doctor Strange 3. So let's talk about the first part first really quickly. This took me back a little bit because it's been my headcanon for years, just in my head. Okay, the next main 3 Avengers will be Captain America, Sam Wilson, Doctor Strange, Captain Marvel. That just made sense to me, right? Like you have the grounded, the magic, and the cosmic. Like that just made sense to me. But seemingly he will not be in Avengers Doomsday. Does this make you sad? Are you upset at this at all? Are you excited for Avengers?
So remember earlier when we were talking, I said I've seen the majority of the Marvel movies.
Mm-hmm.
Haven't seen Doctor Strange.
Whoa. Okay.
I'm familiar with the character, but I haven't seen his solo movie. So, I mean, Benedict Cumberbatch is great at almost everything he does. So it's always probably a disappointment not to have him in something because you know he's not going to be a letdown in the movie. Like, but at the end of the day, like here's the thing. We're clearly starting a new a world, like new MCU. They probably want to highlight some people that people aren't as familiar with yet. I don't know who those are. Like, I don't know, like, who's the girl from the Hawkeye series? Like, I'm just trying to think of people that might, you know, like they might want to highlight, right?
Right. I mean, yeah. I mean, you have Shang-Chi.
And if you put in someone like Doctor Strange, he takes a lot of that pull away from the people you're trying to push up, right? His time in the MCU is on the decline. They're clearly going to phase him slowly out because he's Benedict Cumberbatch. You can't afford him movie after movie after movie. You can afford, what in the hell is her name? Haley Steinfeld?
Haley Steinfeld, yeah.
Yeah. You can afford Haley Steinfeld in multiple movies. So you kind of want to promote her. You kind of want to push her up. You don't need to push up Benedict Cumberbatch. So I understand it from a finance reason, because adding Benedict Cumberbatch to the movie, sure, you're going to pull in some more views, but will it justify the salary you have to put out on him too, right?
But I would rather him over like Robert Downey coming back or Chris Evans coming back and stuff like that. So
I'm really still annoyed by the Robert Downey thing. I'll say this real quickly. I've said it on my stream a couple of times. Unless they find a way for him to be a variant of Tony Stark, no, just don't do it.
Yeah.
That's the only justifiable way I will accept this character, is if he's some type of variant of Tony Stark. Because if he's just like Jim Friday, I'm going to be like, what the hell, dude? No, you could have got any other actor to play Jim Friday. Like,
It's very dope. Like I again, I'm not against the idea of it being an evil Tony Stark. I get it, whatever. I love Doctor Doom. I'd be totally down with it being Doctor Doom. I think doing both undermines both potentials of that story. Like I don't think you could do either of those to its proper degree, but by combining those two. And obviously you want to do it because it's like, oh my gosh, it looks like the person we know. Holy shit, and emotional attachment, whatever. But I don't know. I think that does a disservice.
Yeah.
But I think Phase 3 did this very well, where it's like you were able to feature the new characters by having them connect with the old characters, right? Like your real introduction to Doctor Strange, obviously he had his movie, but was Infinity War. People fell in love with him because his dynamic with Tony Stark and their back and forth was so good. So you like Doctor Strange because of Tony, and I feel like that's kind of what you should do with this next movie, where it's like, okay, Doctor Strange, Thor, Spider-Man, have them team up with like Moon Knight, She-Hulk, and Miss Marvel and stuff like that. Where it's like, okay, now you like these new guys because they're working with the old guys, kind of thing. But I will be very curious. Like, he did tease a potential Doctor Strange 3. We've known it's been in at least the air for a while. Like, it's clearly they want to do it eventually. We don't know when. But I will say, because there are a couple of dates in 2026 that are still kind of like shadowed out, that we don't know if they're still going to have dates in those spots. I think the 2 dates right now are February and November. And I was like, if there's still a November date, if there's still a mystery movie, I think Doctor Strange 3 would make a lot of sense, especially going into Secret Wars, right? I think Doctor Strange makes sense to set up that movie depending on how they end Doomsday, like where we leave the characters and stuff off in that project. So
yeah, I mean, this is one thing I've kind of like. This wasn't a thing that happened 10 years ago where they would tentatively block out dates.
Right.
That you never heard of that 10 years ago when the first phase of Marvel started. This is a new thing where they're just like, okay, here's the dates we're tentatively planning to put things. I think that puts way too much pressure on them to hit those dates. And that's when you can kind of come into problems where you either have to push those dates back or you put out a product that maybe you weren't ready to put out yet, And I hope that when they were doing these timelines in their head, they were kind of like, okay, we know we can make these dates. Like, right. They weren't just like, I think we can have this ready by time. Because if that's the case, then you're not going to get that to like 2027 because they're not going to make it on time.
Right.
So many movies in like the last 5 years kept getting pushed back over and over and over and over again.
Yeah.
And I don't know why any movie would like guarantee a time slot now,
Right.
So
yeah. No, it's definitely like, again, COVID changed the industry. The writer strikes changed the industry, where it's like you can never expect something to come on time. It's like I like any announcement whatsoever. I'm like, okay, it's there for now, but we'll see in a year's time if it's still there. And again, like they haven't announced anything. They could just unannounce that date, being like, okay, yeah, there's nothing no longer at that date. It's fine. If they are going to do it, they need to start like now, right? Like they need to announce it now, start filming now for next November. They have to hurry.
I wouldn't say like now is the like be all end all. I think by April though you have to be.
Yeah.
Like I think if you don't hear something by April, that's not going in that time slot.
Right. So yeah, no, definitely very interesting. I'm curious if it does get announced or if that will be, because again, like it's going to happen either way. Like we're getting a third Doctor Strange movie either way. It's just, is it before the Avengers movies or is it after? Is it post Secret Wars or is it after? And if it is post Secret Wars, then that means we're keeping the Strange around, right? We're not recasting. We're not doing any of that kind of fun stuff. Okay, we have some breaking news. This had come out since we started streaming. Are you excited for the upcoming Green Lantern show at all?
Moderately.
Okay.
Like I'm not locked in on it, but I am interested.
Sure. So we have the casting what seemingly the villain of the Green Lantern series. Sinestro has been cast as Alric Thompson to play DC superhero villain Sinestro in HBO's The Lantern series. So there's been a lot of like controversy and stuff surrounding the Lantern show in terms of the like the style of that show is seemingly more grounded. Some of the casting decisions people haven't loved. Are you familiar with this villain? Like are you like, is this someone that you know very well? Are you okay with this casting?
I have heard of the character, but I
Yeah.
couldn't tell you anything about them. Like this is just outside of my reach as a casual fan. Like
Right.
I've heard of, but I don't know them.
Yeah, there was never like a CW Lantern show you could grow your knowledge on.
If only there had been plans to make a CW Lantern show. Someone should have considered doing that.
Yeah, it's crazy. Too bad there wasn't some Too bad there wasn't some character they could have made Green Lantern and never committed to. That's crazy.
Honestly, I mean, one of the biggest disappointments they ever did was they just never thought of having a person, with like a green glowing box or anything.
Well, what's crazy is they almost had two. They had Justice U, and then Stargirl.
Oh my God!
They had Justice U, and Stargirl also pitched a Green Lantern spinoff with Jenny, which is
Wait, seriously?
Yeah. I don't know if they pitched it, but they said after the show was canceled that they wanted to do a Jenny spinoff show with with her brother.
I only knew about the Painkiller spinoff. I didn't know the.
Not to mention
how many shows had spinoffs that I didn't even hear about?
I mean, there's Painkiller. There's the Green Arrow one. There is that one. There was. There's been a couple over the years. Obviously Wonder Girl, but that's not really a spinoff. That's just kind of like a new.
Yeah,
thing.
that got sidetracked for Naomi. Good decision.
Oh God! Obviously Justice U and a lot of those kind of stuff. It was never confirmed, but like it was always my headcanon that they wanted to do a Booster Gold show after Legends. Like to me that like a backdoor pilot-y kind of character. But now it's crazy. But yeah, with that being said, actually that's a really good head. Let me talk about this for a second. Actually, no, this is interesting because again, like I'm kind of with you. I love Green Lantern, but I'm very casual Green Lantern. Like I watch some of the animated stuff, but I'm not like an expert on the lore and stuff like that. But like Sinestro is like the guy. Like he is like the villain. He's like their Thawne.
That's probably why I've at least heard of him.
Right.
Yeah.
He was in the live action movie that come out, but I wouldn't base your main opinion on the villain from.
Are you trying to imply there's something wrong with the movie?
I mean, watch it yourself and make up your own. Your own
I was going to, but my schedule is just so. I've got this stream I got to do right now. Like
yeah.
This is going to be the time I was going to watch it right now.
Oh, so it's my fault you're not watching it.
Yeah, it's definitely that's true.
No, I think that's interesting. I'm curious about the show. Again, people are mad. It's more grounded. It's more whatever. I'm waiting to see what it is though. Like again, I think you can have a grounded cosmic show and it work. I think Superman Lois is actually a great example of that. Where it's like relatively pretty grounded show, but with cosmic elements with a character like Superman. Kind of similar with Stargirl as well, where it's like still relatively grounded in all it can be. So I'm excited for like a murder mystery Green Lantern show. I think that can be fun. Sinestro kind of being involved, I think, is interesting. So we'll see how it goes. But with that being said, we are going to hop into our kind of main conversation today, which is we're going to be ranking final seasons of CW Arrowverse shows. So I put together a tier list of just some DC TV shows. We can talk about if we've seen the final season of the shows. Some of them had like one season. I was like, well, should we rank these? We'll see. I guess I'll figure it out when we pull them, like when we pull it up.
Oh right, yeah. I guess Naomi only had one season.
There's a couple with like in this space that like I put Watchmen on there. I was like, well, that doesn't really count because it was only ever supposed to have one season ever. So that doesn't really count, I don't think. But okay. So we have S, we have A, we have B, we have C, we have D. I mean, before we get going, I mean, again, we kind of talked about this at the front, but like, how do you feel now that like it's all done. Like, we have a complete list of like finished CW DCTV era of shows.
It's wild that it went on this long, but it's also wild that it didn't continue on, because
Yeah.
there was ideas out there. You know, as we just finished saying a minute ago, practically every show had a spin-off idea.
Yep.
You know, like even like with the Flash, I mean, it was clear that there was at least plans on maybe doing one with Jordan Fisher and Jessica
Yeah.
Parker Kennedy. Like every show seemed to have alternate plans.
Uh-huh.
And we saw none of them come through in the end because the CW.
It actually is very disappointing, because I actually think they almost had the perfect lineup for like the next generation of the Arrowverse.
Yeah,
you
they
had
did.
Superman Lois, you had Batwoman. That's a great foundation already, right? Bat family, Superman family, that makes sense to me. If you introduce Wonder Girl, that's the like Trinity, right? Like that's your kind of Trinity. You could do Justice U, which is like an OG, and then like a Booster Gold, and then that's almost a better lineup than what you started with. You know, if the shows are good, obviously.
And then like you just mentioned, there was the Stargirl spinoff.
Yeah.
Black Lightning had a spinoff.
Yeah.
Green Arrow and the Canaries, we can't forget that. And like I said, you know, the Barry's Kids, like they potentially could have had as many as 10 projects.
They could have. Yeah.
Yeah.
And you know, like again, it's a tricky situation, because you had the CW and COVID and DC Studios. I think everything happened all at once for them, where they just
it was the worst combination of things that could have ever happened. I mean, I think even if 2 of those 3 things happened, it's still none of this happens. But I think if one of those 3 things had happened, some of those things might have survived.
Mm-hmm.
I think they could have survived one catastrophe. I don't think they could have survived 3 or 2, though.
Yeah, I mean, I think just the like CW, or you know, like the CW Nexstar stuff, I think was it. Like, I think that was ultimately the main issue. Like, they just didn't want these kind of shows anymore. And then that on top of the DC Studios thing and COVID just fucked everything, right? Like I want to live in a universe where I just want to see what the alternate universe Arrowverse looks like without a COVID. Like, what do those 3 years like? I guarantee Green Arrow probably would have got picked up for, you know, that pilots. We would have got at least one more crossover events. Maybe Wonder Girl would have happened, because, you know, they probably didn't want to pitch an entire new show and stuff like that. Were there really plans for a spinoff of Bart and Nora? Nothing
I don't
official.
know definitively.
Yeah.
But I think with the amount of screen time they were pushing on them, and the fact they knew the Flash was winding down, I think it was at least loosely discussed.
By the end, it felt like they cared more about Bart and Nora than Barry. So like I believed it. Like, I was like, there's probably something. I mean, I would have preferred like a Young Justice-y kind of thing, like even over the Green Arrow spinoff. Like, I was like, okay, bring in Nia, William, Bart.
You know, that would have been a good idea. You can merge all of these ideas that couldn't get off the ground into one idea.
Yeah.
Like the Legends of Tomorrow for the new generation.
Bring in Painkiller as well, just to throw them in there.
Yeah.
Why not?
Sure, why not?
Okay, we're going to be talking about these shows, and again, we're only talking about the final season of these shows. So maybe they had a shit 5 first seasons, but if that final season was good, it gets in. It's S tier. I don't know. Okay, first of these is Smallville. Now, did you ever finish Smallville? Did you watch all 10 seasons?
I will tell you right now that I watched 0 of the 10 seasons.
Oh, really? Interesting.
You want to know why?
Why?
It might hurt your feelings if you're a fan of any of these people.
Okay.
A large part of that cast were assholes.
Okay.
Like Tom Welling, not nice. Kristen Crook, not nice. Like there was a quite a list. Allison Mack, surprisingly not nice. So they soured me, you know. And even though there was some nice people like John Schneider and Michael Rosenbaum were fine, and Erica Durance was fine, the ones that weren't. This was in an era where I didn't run into a lot of egos. So running into so many, I just was like, I don't want to give your show a chance. You know?
Sure. Yeah. Like, I can definitely understand personal connection and
Yeah.
impacting your view on a show. And again, I definitely think you have a very interesting perspective on some of these shows because you know some of these people in real life. You
Yeah,
like
I am jaded by the fact that, like,
you have the inside
I
baseball.
interact with
Yeah,
these people. Yeah.
that's very interesting. In terms of my rating, though, I mean, I like Smallville a lot. Not as much as some of my
Right.
friends do. Not as much as Three Dubs or my friend X over here or whatever. Like, you know, I really love Smallville, and I think the more I think the longer it went on, the more I liked it. Like, it really did
Mhm.
evolve into a. I think it really adapted its comic book roots the more it went on.
Okay.
And I think season 10. I would have to rewatch it. I'm never rewatching 10 seasons of TV, but I would have to rewatch it. But I do remember season 10 being one of, if not my favorite, of the its 10 season run, either season 9 or season 10. So I think for me, I'm going to go with an A tier for the final season. And technically, I probably feel like that's where the show as a whole would rank for me as well. But
Okay.
yeah, I think
Yeah,
that's
most people that I interact with when Smallville comes up loved it.
right.
Like, there's very few people that were like, ugh, no, that, like, it's a generally loved show by those that watched it. So I'm not surprised to hear that rating.
Yeah, and that kind of goes into the thing that we were talking about earlier, where it's like, if you watch any show for 10 years straight, every year for 10 years, you're going to love that show. Like, plain and simple, you have a history and a nostalgia for it. Shout out to the people that watched every season of Supernatural. Like, I cannot imagine watching that for 15 years straight, nonstop.
So I joined Supernatural around season 5, but I went back as soon as I saw it and started it from the beginning. Like, my friend showed me an episode in the hotel one night, and I was like, "This is fucking hilarious." Sorry, I didn't mean to swear on your stream.
Oh, you can swear.
And I was just like, "This is awesome." And so I went back and started from season 1 that night and got caught up, and then had to do, along with the rest of the fans, wait year after year for the new year to come out.
Right.
And that was a show that got screwed over by COVID too.
Yeah, it did. It did. Do you think it would have kept going?
No, but their finale got destroyed by COVID.
I did hear about that. I did hear how bad the finale.
Like, I'm assuming you didn't watch the show.
I mean, I watched it on my own, but like, I'm still on. I think I just finished season 9, so like, I watched it on my own pace, but I didn't watch it live.
Yeah.
So I don't have that like 15 years of experience. I'll finish it eventually.
So I'll just I'm not going to give you any spoilers, but I'll just be like,
I did hear how it ended. I've heard.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, you can talk about that.
So, like, clearly, there was the first major show back after COVID, and they only had 2 episodes left to film.
Mm-hmm.
So the finale was under the peak of COVID restrictions.
Gotcha.
So they wanted to bring back practically everybody of note that had been in the show. Like, they had it. I remember talking to someone that was working on the show, and they had a promise list of 26 characters for the finale.
Right.
They only had 2. Because you couldn't bring these people in. They would have had to do the 14-day quarantine and all that to come and shoot for one day, they couldn't do it. Yeah. Anyways, we got off track.
No, that's completely okay. Okay, next up we have Arrow, which that ended on its 8th and final season, which, I mean, that final season was a lot of things. It was its final season. It was a crossover event. It was a backdoor pilot. Do you look at this?
It was also the last season to end before COVID.
You're right. And
mostly I look at it fondly. Okay. I will say the Green Arrow and Canaries stuff took too much of the screen time away from what was a great final season. Like, if they could have purged the future stuff from the storyline, I would have put this in the S tier, but I think I got to put it only in the A tier because that's 25% of the season they threw away. And that's too big of a loss for me to give it a perfect grade.
Yeah.
But the parts that weren't future stuff were S tier,
Yeah, I really like. I don't like Arrow season 8 as much as a lot of my friends do, but I think it's still really solid. I think especially those first like 4 episodes are some of the best episodes I had had in quite a long time. And listen, I thought Crisis for what it was solid. I agree with you. I don't like the backdoor pilot. I actually think it's probably one of the worst backdoor pilots out of the ones we had seen. Not bad, but it wasn't great. And yeah, I do think a little bit of like the fact that it didn't get picked up kind of makes it age really, really poorly.
Yeah.
And Crisis ages terribly. Like that whole event, like everything with Batwoman and Ryan Choi and Mia, and Justice League aim horrendously, and it's not their fault, right? I can't blame them for that, but it's still.
They should have known. I mean, honestly, they should have known there was a pandemic coming and just like,
saw the future.
Wrote accordingly.
But thank God they got out when they did. Thank God Arrow ended. Crisis ended when they did. Same with Endgame, because both was 2019. Thank God. Oh. Thank goodness. So are you thinking A?
I think A. I can't in good conscience call it an S just because of how much screen time the future took.
Yeah, I agree. I don't know if you've seen this one, but Gotham. Do you have any experience with Gotham? Mm-hmm. Okay. What's your thoughts on Gotham?
It's been a while since I've seen it. Like I watched that live, so it's been a few years now.
Okay.
How do I feel about the final season? See, this is the problem when it's this far removed, eh? Like,
right.
I mean, it wasn't bad. I will definitely say it's not a C or a D. I would say a B or an A. Like, it's hard to say right off the top of my head because it's been so long, but I would say a B or an A.
Yeah. Gotham's a weird show for sure, because I think, like, when it works, it's peak. And when it doesn't, it's a weird show, right? And I do have, like, a little bit of an emotional connection to the final season, because I binged up until the final season. Like, I knew it was coming back for its final season, so I binged 4 seasons in, like, 3 weeks. And my brain was jello by the end of that experience, because holy shit, what a weird show. I also don't think it helps it came off of such a good season. Like, season 4 is easily the best of the show, in my opinion. And I don't know if season 5 was fully able to live up to that.
You know what I'm going to do? I'm going to pull up Wikipedia while you talk about it and just see if I can jog my memory about it.
Yeah. I remember the Bane stuff. They had the Bane stuff. They had the, like, Gotham City under siege storyline. It was the, like, what's it called? The, like, Dead City or whatever. I do remember that really bad Batman costume they had in the final episode.
Yes, I do remember that. Somehow that sticks with me.
Yeah. Oh man, I think I almost would have rather them not gave him a suit at all, because like that got so memed, that got made fun of so much when that came out. No Man Lands, thank you so much, Cameron. No Man Land. Yeah, I think it's okay. I think it's an okay final season. I will say, I think it should have gone more. I think Gotham is a show where they could have. I don't know. I don't know if it felt ready to wrap up yet. I felt like there were still several years. Like I feel like there was such.
So one of their problems. I mean, it's a problem that plagued a lot of shows in the past too. Is it was on real network TV, like it was on Fox.
Yeah.
You really need to. You need your ratings. You need to hit your ratings to stay on there. And let's be honest. I mean, the show wasn't. Like I don't know what their ratings were, but I don't think I ever heard of them being. Oh my God, their final season. Do you know what let's see what the finale got. That's the best. Okay, how many million do you think the finale got?
Oh boy.
Remember, this is a real network. This isn't.
I gotta remember like what realistic numbers were at the time. Would that have been like a
2019.
9 million? That's too
high. That's 2.19.
Yeah. Yeah, okay. I have to like
For
readjust the.
network television, you're not surviving.
Yeah. Yeah, no, they dealt with that for like a couple of years. Like it felt like I wasn't watching then, but like I remember every year I was like, well, we don't know if it's getting another season. We'll see.
Yeah.
I'd probably give the final season like a B. I think it's okay.
Okay.
Um,
Like I said, I think a B or an A was acceptable because, like I said, I know
no,
it wasn't bad. I went away from the series with a positive thought, but I also know it didn't like stick with me so much that I'm like, oh my god, I remember that season so much.
right. Gotham was kind of like that for me though, where I felt like almost every season was like, and again, I also binged them, so it's like I don't have that yearly thing. But I think the only
Mhm.
season that stands out was season 4. Like, oh yeah, that's that season, and then everything else is like, yeah, it's a show. It's definitely a show.
They did that series. I can confirm it.
Sure. We have Supergirl, which you said you watched parts of Supergirl, right?
I watched parts of the last season just because I wanted to keep up on what was going on. But the finale, I saw the finale.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
saw like 2 or 3 other episodes in that season, and maybe like some clips.
Yeah. Man.
I can grade it mostly on the finale because
Okay.
my feelings on the finale is there was some parts that hit very well,
Yes.
but there was some ridiculous parts.
Mm-hmm.
I will, till the day I die, always remember being at the set when they did the big scene where they're all standing on the street together.
Fight scene.
And Kyler's character Alex screams out something like not without my consent or something like that at like some villain. And remember, this was hardcore Supergirl fans were there with me. Like it wasn't just me and a couple of pros. It was real fans that love this show. All laughed or groaned as much as I did hearing that. It's one of the worst lines I've ever heard. And on the show, it was no better.
Yeah.
And there were some great parts to the episode.
Mm-hmm.
But it wasn't all good.
No, that seems tough because like I want to defend it. Like it's in my nature.
No, you don't.
It.
No, you don't.
Like, okay, but here's why. Like, I want to defend it because certain parts of the internet are going to use that as ammunition, right? And I was like, oh my god.
Fair enough. Yeah.
But I also can't defend it because it is a very bad line of dialogue. Like I have to be like, okay, I get what you're trying to do, but it doesn't work in this context. And it does come across.
And like I don't know. So sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but fine. I honestly feel like if they had anybody on the set that had like 2 IQ points working at the same time, they should have heard the reaction from their fan base at the set and been like, maybe we cut that line.
Yeah. It's very easy.
Like they laughed at it. They laughed at it. Like that's not the reaction they were looking for. I know it's not.
Yeah.
Yeah. I would call the finale okay. I would say a B or a high C.
Mm-hmm.
But that's all I can grade it on is the finale.
Right.
The rest of the series I didn't see enough of to remember. I'm looking at my photos right now trying to remember if there's other sets I saw or other episodes I saw.
Yeah, season 6, again, I will defend Supergirl. I like Supergirl most of the time. Mm-hmm. Season 6 is my least favorite season of the series.
I heard a lot of people saying that.
It was probably the closest I was to for several weeks there. I almost didn't want to watch the show anymore. I was like, again, you're
at the point where you're like, if they announce there's a season 7, I'm just quitting.
I wouldn't have quit, but like that current storyline was tough. Was a tough watch. I thought the villain was probably one of the worst Arrowverse villains. What they were doing, Lex, how they were writing certain characters were just like it was just a slog to get through every week. I do like the ending though. Like I actually think it has a really probably one of the better actual like endings like in terms of final moments. Like I really like her like revealing herself to the world. Like, I
Yeah,
think that works
yeah.
a lot for her character, and probably one of the best, like, full arcs out of all the characters, where it's like her whole journey has been about not knowing, trying to balance both Kara and Supergirl. So it makes perfect sense. Like, oh, I'll come out as both, and I'm both those things to everybody. So, like, I really like that. I love the wedding stuff. I think that's beautiful.
Yeah.
But yeah, that first part is very rough. I'd probably go like a C.
Okay.
If not I won't be mean enough and put it in a D, but I'll keep it like.
No, I don't think it's the worst thing I've seen, but no. I'm also, again, only grading it on one and a few pieces of episodes, right?
Right, for sure. Legends of Tomorrow, which is obviously a weird one because it wasn't supposed to be their final season. It was supposed to be...
Oh, no, it was supposed to be their final season. The showrunner just didn't know that.
Yeah. Well, it wasn't written to be the final season at the time,
yeah.
right? You know what? I actually really like season 7. Like, season 7 was the season I think kind of brought me back in a little bit. Because I don't know how you feel about Legends, but like season 1 for me, I was like, it's fine. I love season 2 and 3, and then it loses me. And then finally, I think I really was able to get into the show it then became in season 7. I was like, okay, I get what you're doing now. You found a bit of a balance. I'm into this again. And then it ended. So
right. I'm looking at season 7 right now, just trying to memorize what I remember of it.
Yeah.
Because there's been 2 times in that series where I gave up on it. I gave up on it in season 4 after the Bollywood episode.
Right.
And then I gave up again, I think, in season 6.
Okay.
And then came back. I don't think I saw all of season 7, but I think I saw enough of it to have an idea. I'm just memorizing the stuff that they've got here now to see.
Yeah. I actually think keeping them in time for season 7 was actually, I think, one of the best moves they could have done, because they really needed like a breath of fresh air. They needed something to kind of like rejuvenize the show a little bit. So I was like, okay, them having a season, them stranded in time, this like Western themed season. I thought the comedy for me was hitting a lot stronger than it was previously. I think they brought back a bit more of the action, like sci-fi stuff that I was really missing. Cameron says the Booster Gold, I think the final episode is really cool with Booster Gold. They had their 100th episode that season. Thank God they got that final, like that 100th episode in. Who was the villain? Who was it Bishop again?
Episode 100. Maybe. I'm just reading the synopsis on it, and I kind of... So the synopsis goes, Gideon struggles with making decisions and collapses. Astra and Spooner enter her mind and meet a memory of Jefferson Jackson defending her subconsciousness. Astra and Spooner help Gideon recover lost memories of Legends, which include Ray, Carter, Leonard, Martin, Rip, Nora, Zara. Yeah. You notice how they didn't bring back Hawkgirl? Along the way, Gideon... Yep, they did. So there was a lot of bitterness between the crew and her. So she did not want to come back, and they did not want her back. So it was a mutual thing. Along the way, Gideon is attacked by a virus of herself, who doesn't want to be human. It corrupts her memories, forces her to re-experience the death of several legends, and reveals that Rip has reprogrammed her to protect them against her will. Jax, Astra, and Spooner uncorrupt the memories, and God, this is so ridiculous to even read, and show Gideon happier ones, convincing her to embrace her humanity and take control of the virus. She is comforted by the legends and wakes up in 2213 Vancouver, BC. Hey, we got to play ourselves. The younger Bishop has dreams of his future self and the legends from the alien invasion of 1925. He finds a copy of Gideon that he downloaded and resets her memories, intending to use her against the legends. I don't know if that explains anything. I am very confident reading all this that I didn't watch the episode.
That's fair. I think it's I actually think it's a good anniversary episode. Just not a good like representation of some of those characters now that it's a more goofier show. Like it doesn't exactly feel like Stein and Rip and Hawkman.
Right. Yeah.
But also it's kind of the point, like it's from the POV of Gideon. It's like what Gideon thinks of these characters. So I think it'd probably be like a B final season for me. I don't know how much of it you watched, but I think it's
I saw parts of it.
Yeah. I think it's middle of the road for me.
I think that's a fair enough grade. I think the only thing I would say going against it is the fact that they couldn't, like, they didn't wrap anything up. And
yes.
Like, I think that's a big mark against them.
Yes. And which really sucks too, because like it wouldn't be a bad final season. Like the whole season is them like reflecting on their past and trying to decide if they want to still be legends anymore, if they should return to their normal lives. Like it's really close to a solid final season. Like in the final episode, it's like them all ready to go back home and like call it quits basically. So it's like it's pretty close to a final season in terms of its themes. But yeah, the cliffhanger sucks.
I just realized that this is a season they didn't have Dominic Purcell in.
Yes.
Right.
Yeah. And like they end it like they're all in alien jail. I think Ava's pregnant. Like it's definitely has a lot of like things that kind of leave it up in the air.
Unfulfilled lines.
Yeah. And it sucks because it's the only OG Arrowverse show that doesn't get a conclusion. Like Sarah was there since Arrow season 1, and
since the pilot.
Yep, that's.
I mean, a different Sarah, but Sarah was there.
It's still Sarah, yeah.
Yeah.
I definitely think it's better than Supergirl though, so I think I'm gonna put it in B.
Okay.
Okay, The Flash. Oh boy. Oh boy.
Can I grade this just on episode 9 and 10?
Well, all right. Off to S tier it goes.
So, okay, it's got 2 S tier episodes. Look, I know we want to like poke fun at it because it wasn't as good as other seasons, but we're grading it versus other seasons of Arrowverse finale or DC finales.
Yeah.
It's better than Supergirl.
Okay. I might agree.
Better than Legends.
Ooh, interesting.
But I can't say if it's better than Gotham because I don't remember Gotham.
You're right. Those 2 episodes really does put a wrench in the ranking. Because I could easily put it in F if it wasn't for those. Because I hated that final season. I unfortunately did. Like there was a moment mid-season. I felt like I woke up. The 2 episodes after the black what was it, Red Death arc? Yeah.
Those 2 garbage episodes.
Yeah.
Cancel out the S tier episodes.
It does. Yeah.
So take those off the board. You're now grading this out of how many episodes was there in the season? 13?
13, yeah.
So now you're grading it out of 9 episodes. The Red Death arc and the final 4 episodes. Or final 3 episodes.
That Becky episode might genuinely be one of the worst seasons of TV I've ever seen. It is.
Hold on. I think there's a worse episode in that season. I just can't remember what it is now.
Oh man, yeah, and like there's a season I think mid-season I felt like I woke up and I was like, I am no longer watching the show I fell in love with. Like I feel like I was living in this kind of illusion world where I was like, it's going to get better, it's going to fix itself someday, and it really. Oh
my god, there was 3 filler episodes. I actually had forgotten about the Becky episode.
Yeah.
I was remembering the Nia Null and the one where like the agents come in to inspect Star Labs.
Yeah, that one's bad too.
Yeah. Like all 3 of those are atrocious.
Yeah.
Ooh, this is getting tougher to justify anything other than is it a C or is it a D?
I'd be okay putting it in D. I would not be opposed to that.
My only argument against that is unfortunately episode 9 and 10.
Yeah.
Like the garbage interlude episodes wipe out those. So now you're basing it on the rest of the season. And let's be honest, the finale missed big time.
Yeah.
Red Death wasn't great. I didn't hate the Red Death story arc, but it was not great. Like
No.
I could not give that an A.
It was a waste of time for sure.
Yeah. It's like they didn't know what they were going to do with the season and forgot that this was their final year.
Yeah.
You know what? I think D isn't unrealistic. I mean, I want to put it in C, but I think that is a little bit of like romanticizing what the show used to be and being like, no, it can't be that bad.
Right.
But I think D isn't, like, yeah.
Yeah. Yeah, no, it kind of made me, like, again, like, Flash is probably my favorite show of all time, just in terms of, like, nostalgia and, like, what it did for me. Yeah. But that final season made me be like, I don't think it's my favorite anymore. Like it really hurt. Like, there was a point where it's like, Joe goes off, they technically kill off Caitlin for a while, and I was like, this is not the same show I fell in love with. Like all my characters that I love are gone.
Oh, and literally, because I mean, they brought back Eddie near the end, but like
he wasn't
the entire season 1 cast, with the exception of Barry and Iris,
right,
and a little bit Danielle, were gone.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's tough.
Yeah. I mean, you know what the deciding factor just was for me right now?
Okay.
Cecile can fly.
That finale was so fucking bad.
So here's the thing. I can only grade it on what they showed on TV.
Yeah.
I feel they had better plans that they just couldn't get done because of scheduling and Grant's COVID and stuff like that.
Right.
I think, like, I remember hearing Paigey or Eric say something similar to this, and I think it makes a very valid sense. Like, I feel like Grant was expected to be in those scenes with the solo 1v1 fights.
Yes.
And couldn't be. So if you had put him in those fights seem more realistic that they would win.
They would have been better, yeah.
Yeah.
And like,
but Cecile flying is you can't justify that.
Like, I understand there's rules. I understand you had to get back to filming, but filming the series finale without your lead, just pisses me off. It's like, I get you. Like, there's rules that have to be in place. You probably have a better idea than me, but it's like, can't we just wait like a couple days? I don't know.
It all does. At the end of the day, it all does come down to money, because all of those crew members would have already booked other jobs.
Yeah.
It
sucks.
Yeah.
Okay. I never watched Krypton. Have you seen Krypton?
Nope.
All right. Skip. Black Lightning. You said you didn't finish.
I did not watch the final season. So this is what I can say.
Okay.
The reason I didn't watch the final season is everybody I know that watched it did not have positive things to say. That's all I can say about it.
It's pretty rough. It is pretty...
Okay.
I love Black Lightning. I said for years.
Me too, and that's why I'm surprised I never finished it.
I had said, honestly, I would have put it in like an S tier show based on the first 3 seasons. Like, I think it's a fantastic show. That season just drops the ball in so many ways. It feels rushed. The storylines don't really hit. You can tell there's drama behind the scenes of how it all, characters just that should be in the same room just simply aren't. They're recasted.
Didn't China McClain literally leave the show for 3/4 of the season or something?
Yeah, they recast the character as this other cosmic being, which kind of sucks because this new actress is really good. Like she does a really good job at doing China. But the storyline just doesn't hit for me. the series, like, it definitely was not supposed to be the final season. You can tell on every regard. It feels like they did the regular season, and then the last episode, they're like, oh shit, we're ending. Get us, like get people in here, do a final scene, whatever. It just, I don't know, it just feels sad. The whole season just feels sad, because you know there's so many things behind the scenes that are happening.
Right.
That just is so... I'd honestly put it with The Flash and D. I think
everything I've heard from other people, you would be justified.
Yeah, because like
I'm again like you. I was a big Black Lightning fan, but it was one of those things that I wouldn't necessarily get to it right away. I'd usually end up watching like 5 episodes in a row thing. But by the time it had got out, people were like, "Oh my god, this is so bad," and I'd be like, "Oh, I haven't caught up yet," and they're like, "Don't." And I'm like, "It can't be that bad." And then more people would say it. And I'm like, how is it? How?
Yeah. Yeah, because, like, even with, like, The Flash, where it's like, okay, but Flash had episode 9 and 10 to justify it a little bit. Black Lightning doesn't have, like, an episode 9 and 10. It's all kind of the same of just, like, where it's not as bad as some of those season 9 episodes of The Flash, but nothing really justifies it for me.
Yeah.
Pennyworth, I also have not seen. Have you seen Pennyworth? Hello?
I said no.
Oh, no, I'm sorry. I didn't... You must have cut out or something. Yeah, I also have not seen Pennyworth. I always meant to, but never got around to it. Stargirl.
I have not seen the final season.
Okay, so opposed to Black Lightning,
I have heard it's good.
Fantastic season of like Stargirl. They had a fantastic final season. Like quite the opposite, because they were also not supposed to end in their final season, and yet I would argue they have the best final season out of all of them. Because like everything kind of comes full circle. Like they bring back iconic villains. Their themes of the main kind of characters all seem to kind of wrap up in a perfect way, and it ends in a way that is so satisfying. Where it's like, yes, we're ending here, but we wouldn't have to, right? It kind of ends in a way where it's like, yes, it's the ending, but you get to imagine what their adventures happen off screen, which is, I think, pretty perfect.
Do you think part of the reason they ended it that way was because there was still the idea of a Painkiller spinoff, and they're like, we might need these characters down the road?
I think they were hoping for some kind of crossover of some sort. I think there was still that, like, because like we were still in the era where shows were getting canceled.
Just keep talking, but I won't be here for a second. I'll still hear you. I just gotta do something.
No problem. Like I feel like it was in this era of everything is ending. We don't know the future of the CW, but it's not set in stone yet. I felt like, so I felt like that was just kind of their thing of like, yes, we're canceled. We're not getting that that 4th season. But maybe some other show can do something with us. Maybe some comic book, maybe some anything can bring us back. Maybe the movies or something. Like I feel like they were trying to light that hope. And yeah, again, like I think it does it better than any of the shows do. I really do. I would put it in S tier. I would put it. I think there's only 2 on this list I would put in S tier, and I think that's one of them. Speaking of the other one, we have Superman and Lois.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have much of a fight on this. Far and away the best Arrowverse finale series season.
Yeah.
We're not even in a debate about that. Yeah. I mean, like I said earlier, I would have put Arrow in there if it weren't for the future stuff dragging it down. And Superman and Lois is better than the future, the Arrow stuff.
Yeah.
So yeah, yeah. I can't say yeah in other ways.
No, I agree, and again, it had so much going against it too, right? Like the CW crumbling around them, budgets being cut, cast is being cut, writers is being cut. I went into the season being like, you know what? If it sucks, I understand. Like, I understand why it would suck. 100%.
I was worried from the beginning because I'd heard back in season 3 they were getting rid of the Kent farm. Yeah. And I was like, how do you do the show in Smallville with out their home.
Yeah.
Like, are they going to move? And I didn't know what was going to go on. I didn't know that they literally had to rebuild a stage in the studio with fake green grass around it and all that to make it look like the front of the house.
Right.
They had to rebuild it in the studio just for that. And like, I didn't know how they were going to get away with this, but they did. They made it work.
Goddamn miracle workers, like those writers and producers are. And like this season, like so much love, so much like inspiration that they put into it. Like you can clearly see that they're getting their real life spouses, and they're using the real crew, and they're doing their real life children on set and stuff like that. It's like they just love, like they're doing whatever they can to make this the best they possibly can. And I have some nitpicks here and there.
Yeah.
There's some things that probably could have been loosened up a little bit, but like, who cares? Like they gave us excellent TV, excellent television.
Yeah. Like I again, can I make some nitpicks? Sure. Yeah. But this is like, at what point do you break off the line for an S tier? 9, 9.2, 9.5, whatever it is, it clears.
Right. No,
like absolutely. S tier doesn't have to be a 10 out of 10.
Right.
But this is very close to a 10 out of 10, Yeah, the only drawbacks I have against it really are like some of the characters they brought in a little too late. Like we got 1 episode of Jimmy Olsen, 2 episodes of Milton Fine, things like that where we could have had them for, a season.
Right.
Outside of that, and like one little thing here, a little nitpick there, it's a 10.
Right.
So yeah, I mean, if I had to grade it overall, it's like a 9.88. Like,
like most of my criticisms is just being like, well, I wish this thing could have been fleshed out a little bit more. I wish this, which obviously not their fault. It's their final season. They gotta rush some things that they wouldn't have had to do otherwise if they had the full 7-season plan. And
I mean, Jordan or Jonathan just all of a sudden like having his powers just like manifest in like 4.5 seconds.
Yeah,
sure.
That was definitely later.
Like I can give them the benefit of the doubt on it only because they did come up with a valid argument, and that is that he's a more athletic brother.
Right.
And I can let them get away with it. I think if the roles had been reversed and Jordan had been the one that come in with powers in the final season and master them in half a minute, I would have been more skeptical.
Yeah. Yeah, I think it makes sense. I think it makes perfect sense. Like, especially like if both their powers manifest through stress, there's never going to be a more stressful moment than what those kids were going through at that moment. Like it was like, I completely understand. Again, I just wish it was like paced like slightly better, and then it's golden. But yeah, you're 100% right. It's clearly STR.
Yeah.
Some of these we can probably zim through because some of these are like 1-season shows. Gotham Knights.
Right. I didn't finish. I watched about half of Gotham Knights.
Okay.
Not bad, what I watched of it, but not great either. Like it was watchable enough. That's the phrase I would use.
Yeah.
It would be what I would call perfect CW television.
Yeah. It's
watchable enough.
Yeah,
I don't think it's a D, but I also don't know if I can justify giving it a C.
Oh, interesting. Okay, yeah, like I like Gotham Knights more than the average Joe. Like me and my friend Taz were on here every week watching it live, doing a live stream on it every week, and I think that helped my enjoyment of it because there was that conversation, there was that kind of thing with it. It's very CW. Like, don't expect something grandiose because it's not there, right? But right. I think there was potential there. I could tell they were trying. Yeah. I think, I liked that they actually got my interest like right away in the first episode because everybody I think watched it to see a tire fire, and they didn't get that. I would argue the back half is actually really solid. Like, I think the first half is a little it's okay. It's like, whatever. And I think the back half, they were really like making something of what they had. It's like, yes, we have a garbage fire here, but can we make something of it? And I think they tried their damnedest. And I think they could have improved upon that if they had got more seasons. I think it could have been like a Legend season 1 where they kind of improve upon it. I'd give it like a C because it's like I like it more than Supergirl season 6, but not more than like Legends season 7 and Gotham. So I think it'll be like high C for me.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Like I said, I didn't finish it, but what I saw of it was good enough.
Right.
Yeah.
Doom Patrol.
I never watched. I have it on my computer. It's sitting on my computer to watch anytime for the last 3 years.
I mean, I love Doom Patrol. I think season 1 is peak. Season 2 is okay. Season 3 is solid. Season 4 is solid. What I will say, one of the best series finales I've ever seen. Very junky at times. Also very clearly rushed. You can tell they also knew last minute, oh, it's our final season. And trying to kind of fit things in. But it probably has one of the saddest series finales I've ever seen. I think how it ends is like immaculate. I'd say it's in B. I think it's like a high B for me. If you don't have a vote on it, I'd probably throw it in B.
Okay.
Titans. Fuck Titans.
Another series I didn't watch. That's a lie. I watched season 1, but I did not watch the final season.
I feel bad bashing Titans because I know there's people on here that love
and yet you're about to.
I hate being that guy because like how I feel about Titans is how a lot of people feel about the CW shows, and I hate those people who bash on them. But I really, I was never a huge fan of Titans. It like to me that show was not like a fashion show. It was a show that showed off characters. They're like, hey guys, we got this and this and this, and never do anything with it. Never, I think, prove their worth. When like the CW shows were doing that on like a quarter of the budget with less characters, and they were, in my opinion, putting out better stuff sometimes. And like that fan base always very irritated me because they always acted like they were better. Like, oh my gosh, we have this.
I did get that vibe on Twitter, especially when I had to deal with a lot of that during the Crisis time, because there was the obviously successful rumor that they were going to be on there, and their fans were very adamant that wasn't going to happen.
And also the cast were pissed too.
Yeah.
That like, oh, we didn't know we were in this. We don't want to be a part of that. Weirdly enough, the final season was my favorite season because it finally felt like a Titan season.
Okay.
But that doesn't mean it's a good season. It's still like okay at best. I'd probably throw it in C as well. It's fine.
Okay.
It's okay. Naomi, one season. Did you see this?
Okay. One? I saw the pilot. I might have watched the second and third episodes at the most, but it lost me pretty quick. Like, I was uninspired from the pilot. I don't know if it got better.
Its pilot's the best episode. I guarantee you.
Wow.
In my opinion, maybe that's a hot take.
Ooh.
It is. It's like if Boring was a TV show, Naomi would be it.
Oh yeah, no, it lost me right away. Like I remember there was Naomi and there was a non-DC TV show that came out around the same time.
Wasn't it like
Tom something?
Tom Sawyer? Is that it?
I want to say Tom Sawyer too, but that doesn't sound right.
Tom Swift. Tom Swift,
yes.
Thing, right?
Yeah. Those both came out at the same time. I stuck with Tom Swift longer than I stuck with Naomi, and they were on the same night.
Yeah. No, like if Naomi has 0 haters, I'm dead. I watched every episode of Naomi, and like you're kind of waiting for it. Like, okay, when's the twist gonna happen? When are they gonna really get into the plot? And they don't. They don't really explain kind of like what kind of world they're in. Every time there's a fight scene, they cut. Like every time there's about to, like, okay, we're finally getting it cut. Never a fight scene. They literally, like, the whole pitch of the show at the start is like, oh my gosh, there's a connection to Superman. Oh my god, why can't you see Superman? The finale ends with them being like, because I'm so powerful, I can never meet Superman. and it's literally being like, yeah, that thing that you signed on for in the pilot, never gonna happen. We've just tricked you this entire season. And it's like, and maybe if it was a better show, I could get past that, but it's not. Like there's nothing. There's not a single episode where I'm like, oh my gosh, I love this. Like, this is doing some cool stuff. It doesn't, in my opinion. So, yeah, it's my least favorite like DC TV show, I think.
Fair enough, because I remember, like I said, the pilot didn't sell me, and usually the pilot, like you said, is the best episode usually, and it didn't sell me. So yes. I'm not surprised.
Batwoman. Final season of Batwoman. Interesting. So like we talked about prior, Batwoman's an interesting case because I almost feel like their third season's almost their first season because it's really Ryan's like first season to herself, and I feel like that final season was sounding like, okay, this is what we want the show to be. Sure. What's your thoughts on Batwoman and like the final season?
So I will probably be the unpopular choice to most people, but I love this series. Like I loved it from basically the beginning, and it's kind of funny because I wanted it to fail, and it won me.
Hell yeah!
Because Ruby Rose is a miserable person, and when that do you remember the trailer that came out for the first season?
Oh yes, I do. I was there when that dropped. I remember the back.
That I wanted that show to fail so bad after that. I was like, I hope it somehow gets negative viewers.
Oh.
But I watched it and I'm like, this isn't too bad.
Yeah.
And ended up watching it. Even by the end of season 1, I'm like, I'm almost starting to not hate Ruby Rose.
Yeah.
And then she left. And so season 3 for me is great. Like, there was not a single season I didn't like.
Mm-hmm.
It's not S tier, obviously, and it can't be just because it was a little campy. Even at its greatest, it's still campy.
Yeah.
But I personally would argue with it as an A, but I would understand if you give it a B, because it's, it has its campy moments that kind of bring down the like seriousness of the show.
Yeah, I would probably give it a B, but I have no problem with an A. Like I think it's the strongest season for me. Again, I think it's a show that finally found its footing. I think it was finally.
If I was grading it on the entire series, I'd be like, it's a solid B.
Right.
But like you said, the finale is the final season is all we're grading it on.
Yeah. No, I think it's fine. Like, I think all the Poison Ivy stuff was fun. I think our like take on Joker was really cool. I think I
loved the Joker that they came up with. Fucking amazing.
Yeah.
I'm so mad we didn't get more of that.
No, like I was devastated when Legends and Batwoman didn't get new seasons. Like that was so. Like Legends was like, okay, you had 7 season run, I get it, whatever.
Yeah.
Batwoman was like, she was really just getting started. Like she was just starting her journey, and I was like, oh,
I mean, Batwoman was behind the 8 ball from the beginning, though. Again, from that first trailer and onward, it was always a show that was fighting uphill just to remain existing.
Right. I mean, I would argue they're one of the most unlucky shows I've ever seen. Like that first trailer, terrible marketing. Their first they couldn't even finish their first season because of COVID. Then she left. Then like the writer strikes pushed things back, or no, not the writer strike, but like the whole like the CW stuff got canceled before she even got hurt. Like it's like every season had an unlucky print.
Do you want to know how bad? Do you want to know how bad that first trailer was received?
Yeah.
Warner Brothers took it down from their YouTube channel.
Yeah. And it's just one of those things where it's like that scene is not inherently bad. It's just out of context. It's not a great look. It's not and of course you're going to get those channels that are like, oh my gosh, I can't, blah blah blah.
Yeah. But even casual viewers saw it and were like, this is the dumbest thing. Like, and it was. I mean, in the context of the trailer, it was. And it's funny because when the pilot came out, one of those 2 scenes, I can't remember which one it was because I don't remember the trailer anymore because it doesn't exist. wasn't even in the episode. They'd cut it fully. And then there was just the other one that was in there. But in the context of it being in there, it was still kind of not great, but it wasn't as bad as it sounds by just itself.
Right.
By just itself, it's an F tier comment. In the context of the scene, it's like a C tier comment,
Right.
But yeah, that show was, like you said, it had more challenges than probably the rest of the Arrowverse combined.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, for sure. Okay, final three here. These are all like one season shows, so I doubt we'll spend much time on them. Constantine.
Did not see. I can tell you already, I have not seen any of the ones that are left.
Okay, cool. Constantine, I've only seen the pilot, or like the first 2 episodes. It's like the only like Earth Prime, if you call it Earth Prime, shows I haven't seen. So, I'll just leave it here since we haven't seen it.
Okay.
Watchmen. Actually, I also have not seen the rest of these, actually, so I guess we don't really need to go through the rest of them. I haven't seen
Do you know what's interesting, though?
What's up?
You know what I don't see on that list?
What did I miss out on?
Lucifer.
I can add Lucifer. Give me 2 chicks of a lamb's tail.
I noticed that like 10 minutes ago when the list was starting to thin out finally. And I was like, interesting.
I mean, what's your thoughts on Lucifer as I pull up an image of a Lucifer?
Great. I would have to sit here and think for a minute whether I give it an A or is it justified in an S. I don't think I would give it an S, but let's look back and see what all happened in that season. It's so weird trying to remember things that, that was only a couple of years ago, or at least it seems only a couple of years ago to me. 2021. Oh my God, that's 3 years ago now.
Did it really wrap up in 2021?
Yeah.
That's crazy.
Right?
I remember being kind of mixed on the final season. I remember there being things that worked for me and then things that didn't. But I thought it was more positive than it wasn't.
That was the one that had
the daughter.
His daughter. Yeah.
I remember the meme going around about just like all the DC TV shows doing like future daughter storylines and Lucifer.
Oh my God! Oh my God! Yeah, that would have been right about the same. Oh my God!
Yeah.
No, I think an A is fair.
Yeah.
I don't know if I can give it an S just because obviously it didn't stick with me enough to, like, I'm reading clips about it now. I'm like, oh yeah, I kind of remember that, but it doesn't like lock in. Like it's not a etched in memory. Oh God, that was the season that had the Diablo episode. That was hilarious.
Yeah. Also had the
I love that episode.
You also had the musical episode.
The musical was good. Actually, the musical was a good episode.
It's pretty good. Yeah. It's like one of the better like musical episodes I think I've seen. I just watched, and I know you just said that you covered it back in the day, but I've been rewatching Once Upon a Time, and I just got to the musical episode of that show. It's like, holy shit!
They had a musical episode.
They had a music. It was like in season 6. It was their 3 episodes before the end. So like they're getting married. It's like they're basically the end of the show.
I'm guessing that wasn't really done much on location because I don't remember photographing anything from that.
Most of it's green screen. Most of it's like,
right.
Yeah. What about iZombie? I didn't watch it.
Oh man, I love that show.
Okay, I'll pull up iZombie.
The final season's a little choppy, and I think the ending didn't stick the landing.
Okay.
But I would still call it a B.
B. Okay.
Like I think it's the weakest of their seasons.
Right.
But it's still okay. Like I would rewatch the final season still. I just know that it would not be as good as some of the other ones.
Yeah, it's one of those shows like around that era that I just never got around to. Like I always meant to get around to it, but I just never.
It's fun. It's a fun show.
It looked fun. It looked like a very creative idea. I would always watch the like promos for it and would have like such interesting promos. So I was like, huh, that's an interesting plot for an episode. All right.
Yeah. So like the loose idea is, she becomes a zombie.
Mhm.
So to feed her necessity for brains, because that's how she has to live, she gets a
Yeah.
job in the morgue. So she would eat brains from people in the morgue. But when you eat someone's brain, you get their memories and their personalities.
Yeah.
So yeah, every episode she's basically playing a new character.
That's fun. That's really
Yeah.
fun. But yeah, with that being said, we are coming towards the end of our stream here today. I want to give a big shout out to Canada Graphs for being here today. Thank you so much.
Welcome.
Where can people find you? Where are you?
Right here on Daren'S channel.
Yep, he's never leaving again.
This is the only place I exist. I'm not even real. He made me up.
Yeah.
I'm AI. Yeah, obviously my name is the same name on practically every platform out there. Blue Sky, YouTube, Facebook, Instagram. I even have TikTok, but I rarely use it. I guess Twitter, but I have been cutting down on my usage on Twitter, for reasons. I do have a website. You know what? As much as I am trying to cut down on Twitter, the easiest way is probably just go to my Twitter and go to like my bio, and I have my link tree there.
Absolutely.
So you can just go to the link tree and find the info there of where to find me. Yeah, I am on YouTube, and you will probably find some scenes that you remember seeing on television. Whoa. Posted on there from different angles. Yeah. There's quite a backlog database of stuff from all the Arrowverse shows that filmed here and other things, including Hellstrom.
If anyone's like, man, I really want my Hellstrom kick.
Yeah, I haven't seen Hellstrom in a while. I need to see a 2-minute and 7-second clip of it.
Oh, incredible.
Where can everyone find you, Darren?
What? Me? I mean, I also don't exist. We're just here off the no, you can find me here, obviously. In terms of my promo things I want to get shout out. Next pipeline, we should be continuing our MCU retrospective with Thor and Captain America: The First Avenger, and then this Tuesday after the credits we'll be back. Me, Taz, Darth will be ranking our most anticipated shows for 2025. Before I let you go, there are 2 comments for you, I think in a comment, or both of us, I'm not sure. Cameron, is there any reason why Dominic Purcell left Legends of Tomorrow? Wasn't it just like a contract thing? Wasn't his contract just...
Yeah, his contract was up, and I mean, this happens with most shows. I mean, you saw it with The Flash a lot too. Like, they have to balance the budget, and reality is so the way contracts work in television is every time you have a new contract, legally you have to get a raise. You can't just go to and be like, I really love working here, I'll take half the money. You can't do it. It's just it's against the law.
Right.
Like the union laws.
Right.
So all of these cast members, and Legends had a big cast, need new raises. Somebody had to bite the bullet, and since Dominic Purcell is one of the older cast members, him and Katie Lotz are the most expensive.
Yes.
Who are you keeping out of those 2?
Yep, you're keeping...
So, yeah. So that was why he got the boot,
And, like, Legends had the opportunity that a lot of the other shows couldn't do, where they can have a rotating cast. Every year, you can have a...
Every year or 2, there was, Olivia Swan and, what was the short girl that came in around the same time as her?
Is that Mona?
No, I want to say South American.
Astra's character?
Spooner.
Oh, yes.
I can't remember her real name off the top of my head. But you had characters like this just pop in.
Right.
5 seasons, 6 seasons into the show. And like you said, Mona too. Like they didn't all hit. They weren't all successes. But they were able to constantly be bringing in these new people to just fill out the roster,
Yeah.
And you had to say goodbye to ones you liked. Brandon Routh also had to leave, for the same reason as Dominic Purcell. There was just not enough money to go around to all these people that had been around since day one,
Yeah. Even Nate's actor left, what? Was that season 6?
No, he left after the finale. He announced his He announced he was leaving,
Oh, that's right.
and then the show got canceled.
That's right. So we never had a season without him. That's right. That's
Right. Yeah.
You have one more question here. Canograph, I'm rewatching Crisis on Earth X. Is it true that Matt Lasher was asked not to come back for the crossover?
I don't know. That is stuff I have never heard of. I don't think.
Yeah.
Yeah. I can't say that I'm have any insight on that one.
I mean, I would imagine they had Tom on set, so it's like, hey Tom, just do it. Like we don't have to spend all that money flying someone out or whatever.
Yeah.
Especially in crossovers, like you can probably attest to this. They were hard to get it, like scheduling wise.
Oh,
really hard to get
super hard. Yeah.
Yeah.
There was who did I watch recently that was talking about this? Was it Panabaker? It might have been Daniel Panabaker, but it might have been someone else. It was on Katie Sackhoff's podcast talking about the crossovers and how much like logistical nightmares there were about these things. And it's true. Like I know the amount of times I was on set, I would see someone leaving the set, and I would hear like the AD, but like most people watching this have no idea what that is. They'd be walking along with the actor being like, so and so is off set at 21:06, meaning like they got off at 9:06 p.m. And they're saying that because that's the legal time they ended that so that they can legally start scheduling them for the next thing in whatever it is, 1, 2, 3 hours later on another production. So they weren't going home.
Right.
They were off work at that job to go to their next job.
Go somewhere else.
And so the next job, they'd have to be like, okay, well, they got off at 9:06 p.m. We can't start working them until whatever it was. Like, let's say it's 2 hours. Like, they're like, we can't start working them until 11:06. So, they had to do all this fine tuning, It's insane.
No, for sure. No, absolutely. It's I commend that, like, what they went through for our entertainment and obviously the business too. But
and we'll never get another one in our lifetime, especially with the way TV has gone now.
No, absolutely not. But again, thank you, Canograph. It's been an absolute pleasure. Go follow him all those places. Check my stuff out throughout the week, all that fun stuff. And without further ado, I will see you guys on the flip side.